Greetings, people, and Merry Christmas to you all. Now, today's talk is going to be a little bit different. It's not going to be a presentation, but more of a conversation between us, more of a free flow. And I actually wanted to do it behind this statue over here, but it's behind a fence and currently under renovation, but it's a good metaphor for the topic of today's video. And that is that slavery was never abolished. You see, this one here is the Amsterdam Freedom Statue, and it commemorates the 1863 abolition of slavery in the Netherlands. And yet, I will tell you that slavery exists just under a new name. Today we call it a wage slave. Allow me to explain what do I mean by this. Imagine you were a plantation owner in the 19th century Caribbean, and you had a sugar plantation with a bunch of slaves. Now, you couldn't just house and feed the productive slaves. You had to make sure that their kids were fed, who could not obviously work, make sure that the elderly were fed as well, who were never going to work in their entire lives. And in the 19th century, what these plantation owners realized is, wait a minute, this is not very good for business. What if we would pay these slaves a very small wage, make them free, and they will be the one who'll have to take care of their kids, and they will have to take care of their elderly, of their parents and grandparents. All of a sudden, the Industrial Revolution took this cheap, easy-to-use labor and created massive profits for themselves. In fact, there was this French ambassador to the UK, Charles Maurice de Talleyrand, and he said it best. He basically said that a skilled politician's job is to make new names for old institutions that have become odious to the public. Lincoln, also during the American Civil War, he said that if I could save the Union without freeing a single slave, I would do it. Now, join me so that we can find a more comfortable area so I can continue this conversation. This is a pretty good location. You have a factory chimney in the background, which goes in line with what I was saying, is that slavery has never actually left. It exists to this day. It's just called being a wage slave, going from paycheck to paycheck. And a lot of people, they ask themselves, well, how are we going to, get into the 1984 style communism, totalitarianism? I'll actually make a video on that, talking about the boiling frog analogy, how it's not going to happen Hollywood style, where all of a sudden you have a bunch of army officers coming in and confiscating your wealth, similar to the Soviet Union in the 20s and 30s with the Kulak and the Gulag campaigns, the Holodomor. You can't do the Holodomor today because you have YouTube, you have cameras, social media. No, it's not going to happen that way. It's going to happen implicitly, without people knowing about it. Inflation, right? Inflation is the invisible tax that nobody talks about. Look at all the landlords, especially in France, where during COVID times, there was a cap. So you couldn't actually increase rent, even though the government was on a spending spree. And in France, it's very well known, you have a law called the winter law. And you cannot kick the tenant out between October and April. So the tenant cannot pay, and the landlord, he can't do anything about it until April. And of course, this makes it extremely expensive for the landlord to a point where it may even become unprofitable to do their business. If the rents are capped, but the maintenance costs keep going up due to inflation, and the laws are unfavorable to you, you don't need army officers to come with a gun stuck to your head to confiscate your land or your apartment. It's going to be done by yourself because you need to feed your family. There's a very good idea talked about in The Wealth of Nations by Adam Smith. And in the book, Adam Smith asks the question, what is wealth? Is money wealth? No. No, money is not wealth, Adam Smith says. It's a way of acquiring wealth. Wealth is land. Wealth is wheat. It's potable water. He says that societies can be measured how wealthy they are by the amount of kids they have. So if you had 10 kids, it's a very wealthy society. If you can't have any kids and you're living in a box with a pet cat, Are you really wealthy? In today's society, how many people can actually say that they own land? I mean, our grandparents, our great-grandparents, having land was a regular thing, a farm. Today, if you have thousands of digital dollars, but they are just Chuck E. Cheese tokens, are you really, really wealthy? So what I'm trying to say here is that it's not going to happen all at once. You know, you have a bunch of YouTube videos that go with these apocalyptic titles saying that, oh, Great Reset is gonna happen in 3 months, you must prepare now. No. If you're asking yourself, when is this reset going to happen? It's happening every single day. Small little steps at a time. And that's the boiling frog analogy in a nutshell. And that's what we're trying to fight against in asset protection. So we specifically want to make sure that you owe nothing on paper, you control everything. An acronym that I like to use a lot is STOP, S-T-O-P. You want to stay in control, trust no one, move assets off balance sheet, and use protective legislation to your advantage. So I continuously emphasize, take everything off balance sheet, because you never know when things are going to hit the fan. You just don't want to be a sitting duck. Because if you think about it, the Americans fought an entire revolution over what? A stamp duty? A tax on tea? Yet here we are today, continuously walking around paying income taxes that are, in the Netherlands, I think like 35%, in France it can be as high as 40%, and we don't complain about it. We've normalized this kind of behavior. And this is the boiling frog analogy in a nutshell. Anyway, this was something that I was thinking about, food for thought that you can discuss with your friends and family during the holidays. I am wishing you a very happy New Year's, and the next time I'll probably do more of a video type presentation. You can like and subscribe to the channel, but until then, bye-bye.